My father lied to everyone and made me disappear. I crashed his retirement party with the truth. The last time I saw my dad, actually saw him, I was 18, standing on the porch of the house I grew up in, holding a duffel bag and trying not to cry while my hands shook. I knocked, begged him to open the door, even called out his name a few times. But all I got back was silence. Cold, heavy silence. Now, 10 years later, I was walking through the marble lobby of the Jefferson Grand Hotel, heels tapping on the floor he never saw me grow into. I looked like someone who had it all together, tailored blazer, chin up, like I hadn't spent the last decade learning how to exist without the people who were supposed to love me most. The banner above the ballroom said it all. Congratulations, Principal Daniel Widgemort. 40 years of leadership and legacy. Legacy. That word always pissed me off. Inside the ballroom, it was just picture perfect. Glittery dresses, clinking glasses, catered food that smelled like someone tried too hard. Everyone was there for him, laughing, toasting, sharing stories that I'd been erased from. For a moment, I just stood outside the doors, staring at my own reflection in the glass. Same jawline he always said came from his side of the family. I reached into my coat pocket and felt the envelope, old, creased down the middle, still marked in my own shaky handwriting. The letter. The one I left the night I walked out of that house. The one no one ever saw. Or, more accurately, the one he made sure no one ever saw. I didn't come to ruin his party. That would have been too easy. No, I came because the lie had lasted long enough. 10 years of silence, of him rewriting the story to make himself the victim. 10 years of people believing that I was some unstable, runaway girl who just vanished into thin air. He told them I left in anger. That I ran off with someone dangerous. That I turned my back on family. That's not what happened. That's not even close to what happened. The band started playing soft jazz, my cue. I tucked the letter back into my coat, lifted my chin, and pushed open the doors. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. And you should have seen their faces. Polite curiosity at first, then frozen recognition. Like ghosts were real, and one had just walked in wearing heels and red lipstick. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks stopped midair. And right there at the center of it all, standing beside a photo collage of smiling students and decade-old awards, was my father. His smile vanished the second he saw me. And I smiled right back. There was a time he used to call me his pride and joy. School board dinners, parent-teacher nights. I was the golden child. Valedictorian. Student council. State track. Played flute in the winter concerts. You name it. He used to walk me down the halls of Widgemort High. Yeah, named after him. Go figure. With his hand on my shoulder like I was some living trophy. That's my Sarah, he'd say. Future lawyer. Maybe Harvard if they're lucky. But at home, behind closed doors, his love had conditions. You get AB+, you get the silent treatment. Miss a meeting to rehearse a play? You're wasting your potential. By the time I was 17, I'd started writing little scripts in secret. Mostly stories about daughters who stayed and mothers who left. My drama teacher snuck one into a regional competition, and somehow I won. And then Berkeley Drama Summer Institute, full scholarship, emailed me directly. That night, I waited until after dinner to tell him. I sat across from him at the table, spaghetti getting cold between us. I said, "It's theater, but it's serious. It's what I want." He didn't even look up, just twirled his fork and muttered, "I didn't raise you to chase dreams." Then he got up and walked out of the room. After that, it wasn't yelling. It wasn't punishment. It was just erasure. Like I had asked for something that made me cease to exist. From then on, I started planning my own exit. I filed the FAFSA on my own. Took late-night shifts at a bookstore under a fake name so it wouldn't hit his taxes. Got accepted to a dorm in New York. Bought my own train ticket. The night I left, I wrote a letter, 1 page. Handwritten. I didn't say anything cruel. I didn't run away. I just said, "I love you. I need space. I'll be back Sunday." I left it on the kitchen counter. That's it. That's all I did. Sunday came. I came back. And when I tried to open the door, my key didn't fit. At first, I thought the lock was jammed. I kept trying, jiggling it, knocking nothing. Porch light was off, which was weird. It was always on when someone was home. I rang the bell. Called his phone. Straight to voicemail. Then I called my mom. Same deal. That's when I noticed something to the side by the porch swing. My suitcase. Zipped up. Neatly placed. Like I was some unwanted guest being returned to sender. On top of it, a clear plastic bag holding my birth certificate, social security card, and a post-it note with 5 words. You made your choice. Good luck. My hands went ice cold. I sat there on the steps for hours, just staring. I don't even know what I thought would happen. Maybe he'd open the door and say it was some horrible joke. Maybe I'd wake up. But nothing happened. Neighbors walked past. One of them made eye contact, then looked away quickly like I was some homeless stranger. And honestly, I might as well have been. 2 days later, I crashed at my friend Rachel's place. Her couch. Her hoodie is a pillow. I logged into Gramline, this social media platform we all used, and there it was. A status update from my aunt, posted the same day I left. Please pray for our family. Sarah has run away. She left a hateful note. We fear she's with someone dangerous. My mouth just dropped. The comments were even worse. Praying for you. She always seemed troubled. Kids these days, he turned me into some cautionary tale. A statistic. The drama teacher who'd entered my script into the contest stopped replying to my messages. My college offer was revoked a week later. Something about my transcript being marked incomplete. And just like that, I was gone. Not just kicked out. Not just ignored. I was erased. No one asked if I was okay. No one questioned the story. Not a single person who used to hug me at reunions or call me a bright light even bothered to post a picture asking if anyone had seen me. It was like I'd never existed in their lives at all. I didn't break down that first night. I waited. I cried into a hoodie on Rachel's couch 3 nights later, quiet tears, the kind you trained yourself to keep silent. I took a job waitressing graveyard shifts at a 24-hour diner on 6th Street. I enrolled in community college. Paid in installments. No FAFSA. No family. Just me and a bank account that never had more than $40 at any given time. I didn't tell people where I came from. When someone asked about my parents, I just said, they're back east. Technically true. Emotionally, dead to me. And the worst part? Everyone believed the lie. So easily. Like they'd been waiting for a reason to forget me. But I didn't disappear. I kept going. Took acting classes. Volunteered to run lights for tiny off-Broadway shows. One night, someone read a monologue I'd written and said, "This isn't just good. This is you." Eventually, I wrote a one-woman show. Called it Inheritance. Played 3 nights in a black box theater in Brooklyn. Maybe 10 people came. One of them was a columnist from The Atlantic. She asked if she could write about me. I said yes. The piece was called What We Leave Behind When We Leave Home. My father's name wasn't in it, but I know he read it. Because 3 days after it was published, someone tried to reset the password to my email. I didn't panic. Didn't flinch. By then, I had my own place. My own life. Friends who knew the real story. A whole identity built brick by brick, without him. And still, silence from home. Until one night, a message popped up. From my cousin Tessa. 6 words. I found something. It's about you. I didn't respond right away. Just stared at it like it was a message from a ghost. But eventually, I called her. And what she told me, that's where everything changed. Tessa sounded nervous when she picked up. Her voice was thinner than I remembered, like she wasn't sure she had the right to call. I didn't blame her. Hey, Sarah, I'm sorry it's been so long, she said. I didn't say anything at first. Just waited. She finally broke the silence. I found something. In my dad's attic. Her dad was Uncle Henry, my dad's younger brother. He was always the more laid-back one in the family. Played guitar at barbecues, told bad jokes. I hadn't seen him since high school. Tessa kept talking. He asked me to help clear out some old boxes. Stuff from when my mom taught kindergarten. Old Christmas decorations, tax junk. You know. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Okay. And at the bottom of one of the boxes, inside a Ziploc bag, I found your letter. My heart stopped. She didn't need to say more. I knew exactly which letter. The handwriting, it was yours. It was still sealed, Sarah. He never showed it to anyone. He never even opened it. I sat there on the edge of my bed, feeling like the world had tilted just slightly off its axis. Tessa kept talking. I opened it. I read it. You didn't sound angry. You didn't sound crazy. You sounded like a scared kid asking for some breathing room. I realized everything I'd been told, all of us had been told, was a lie. I think I stopped breathing. She said her dad tried to play it off. Oh, that old thing, he'd mumbled, before trying to change the subject. But Tessa knew. She saw it in his face. He knew, Sarah. They all knew. Your dad didn't just lie. He hid the truth. Literally. Buried it under a pile of junk in an attic like it was some dirty secret. My chest felt tight. I couldn't even speak for a minute. Tessa sent me a scan of the letter that same night. I printed it, smoothed it out, stared at my own words from 10 years ago like I was staring into a past life. I love you. I need space. I'll be back Sunday. No threats. No drama. Just honesty. Just a scared 18-year-old girl who wanted to come home. And he took that and replaced it with a story where he was the heartbroken parent and I was the ungrateful, mentally unstable runaway. He let our entire family, our community, believe that. And they did. For 10 years, they did. I didn't cry that night. I just sat there holding the letter like it was a map to a life I'd been forced to abandon. A week later, a post started making rounds online. The school district was throwing a retirement gala for him. Big fancy event at the Jefferson Grand. Teachers, families, the mayor. A whole tribute to a legacy of excellence and family. That word again, family. It felt like a slap in the face. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I didn't plot some soap opera-level revenge. But I looked at that letter, and I knew what I had to do. I was done being the ghost. I used my middle name, Elaine, to RSVP. One guest. No meal preference. No +1. I didn't need backup. I had the truth. I booked a flight, borrowed a blazer from Rachel, and packed only 2 things, the letter and a clipped copy of the article I published last year in The Atlantic. It was about erasure, about the silence families keep and the people they leave behind. I didn't rehearse a speech. This wasn't about theatrics. I wasn't trying to humiliate him. I just wanted them to hear my story, the real one, out loud. Before the event, I made one last stop. The house. It looked smaller. Faded. The porch paint was peeling. Bushes overgrown. It didn't feel like home. It felt like a memory that had outlived itself. I rang the bell. I didn't expect anyone to answer. But the door cracked open. It was my mother. And I almost didn't recognize her. She looked older, thinner, worn out. Her shoulders were hunched like life had pressed down on her and never let up. But her eyes landed on me, and something flickered there. Recognition. Guilt. Maybe even relief. "Sarah," she whispered, like my name hurt. I didn't waste time. "Did you know?" I asked. She didn't even ask what I meant. She just stepped outside and sat on the porch swing, cardigan pulled tight around her chest. I stayed standing. I needed to. "I found the letter," I said. "The real one. The one I wrote before I came back. The one he hid." She closed her eyes. A slow, silent nod. "I wanted to come after you," she whispered. "I really did. Why didn't you?" She stared out at the street. He said you were unstable. That you'd run off with some older man. That if I reached out, it would make things worse." I stared at her. "And you believed him?" She nodded. "I was scared of him, too. There was a time that would have shattered me. That would have made me scream, or cry, or break something. But all I felt in that moment was distance. Like she was someone I used to know. Like she was a minor character in a story I had stopped reading years ago. She wasn't the villain. But she wasn't innocent either. She was the silence that made his lies stick. I left without another word. The ballroom was glittering by the time I arrived. Music bouncing off chandeliers. Teachers and old colleagues snapping photos. Glasses clinking. Speeches beginning. He hadn't seen me yet. But he would. I stood near the back, letting the noise wash over me like static. Then they called him up. 40 years of dedication. A mentor. A father figure. A leader. He walked onto the stage, smiling that smug, polished smile only men with unchallenged reputations wear. The crowd stood. Cheered. Even the mayor clapped. I waited for the applause to die down. Then I moved. One step. Then another. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Some people gasped. One woman whispered my name like it was a prayer or a warning. And then he saw me. Daniel Widgmore froze. The color drained from his face. And I kept walking. I walked straight to the microphone, like I belonged there. Like the years in between hadn't happened, or maybe like they'd built me into someone who had the right to stand here. He leaned toward me, already panicking, whispering through clenched teeth. "Sarah, not here." But I was already speaking. "Hi, I'm Sarah Widgmore." Silence. "I'm Daniel Widgmore's daughter." The gasps were instant. Like air had been sucked from the room. Some people looked at him, some at me. Some couldn't look anywhere at all. I haven't been in this town, or this room, in 10 years. And there's a reason for that. I paused. Just enough to let it land. 10 years ago, I left home. And my father told everyone I ran away. That I left in anger. That I was unstable. That I disowned him. He told you I left a hateful letter. I reached into my coat and pulled out the envelope. The original one, yellowed, creased, fragile like an artifact. "This is that letter." His voice behind me, low and shaky. "Sarah, don't do this." But I opened the envelope and started reading. "I love you. I need space to think. I'll be home Sunday." That was it. I folded the letter and looked out across the crowd, teachers, old neighbors, former classmates' parents, board members, the mayor. Does that sound like someone running away? More silence. You could practically hear the tension settling into people's spines. Chairs shifted. I started. He tried to step forward. I held my hand up. No. You told your version of the story for 10 years. This is mine. And then a voice from the crowd broke the stillness. Is that why she vanished? A woman asked, shaky but loud enough to be heard. Then another voice. I remember praying for her. And then, standing up from the side, Tessa. My cousin. She held up her phone, showing the scanned copy of the letter. He hid it, she said. For 10 years. He let everyone believe something that wasn't true. You could feel the unraveling happening in real time. His carefully maintained legacy, 40 years of it, coming apart thread by thread. And all I had done was show up with the truth. A former teacher, Mrs. Langston, the vice principal, stood up. Her voice cracked. I always wondered why you shut down the theater department so suddenly. Then Mr. Duncan, an old guidance counselor, you said she had a breakdown, that she was dangerous. I didn't have to say a word. They were doing it for me now. Even the school superintendent, who had toasted him minutes earlier, stepped away from the podium and folded his arms across his chest. He wasn't smiling anymore. And then someone near the back, a guy I barely recognized, said loud enough for the whole room to hear. You made her disappear, to protect your image. My dad, Daniel Widgemort, just stood there. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. He looked at me like I'd set the building on fire, like I'd destroyed everything. But I hadn't. I hadn't burned a thing. I'd just brought the truth into the light. And the truth doesn't whisper, it echoes. That's the thing about legacies built on lies. They aren't made of brick. They're made of borrowed belief. And once belief cracks, it doesn't hold. He stepped back from the mic, his hands shaking, his jaw tight. He turned to retreat to his table, the one where my mother sat, and even she wouldn't meet his eyes. Behind him, the slideshow kept playing on a loop. Pictures of him at science fairs, handshakes with students, posed smiles at graduation. But no one was watching anymore. Because the story had changed. And so had the man. I didn't stay for cake. I slipped out the side door while plates were being cleared in awkward silence. The air outside was cool. Still. Clean in a way that felt earned. Tessa followed me a few minutes later. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood next to me on the curb like we were waiting for a bus that wasn't coming. Finally, she said, you were brave. I shook my head. No. I was overdue. We stood there for a while, listening to the city hum around us. The muffled noise of the gala behind thick hotel walls. It felt like being outside a funeral, except no one had died. They'd just been seen. I think I spent years just wanting someone to believe me, I said. But I don't think belief was what I really needed. Tessa looked at me, confused. I needed the silence to stop. She nodded. You ended it. No, I said. I reclaimed it. I looked down at the envelope in my hand. The letter that was never meant to disappear. The truth that was never supposed to be buried. I didn't need to hand it to anyone. He'd already heard every word. And now, so had they. We walked away together. Not as victims. Not as the disappeared. But as women who had taken back a story that was never his to tell. Tessa dropped me at my hotel that night. Neither of us said much in the car. What was there to say, really? I think we were both still catching our breath from what just happened. I stood in front of the hotel room mirror after I shut the door. Still in that borrowed blazer, makeup smudged, adrenaline still buzzing like static in my veins. I should have felt victorious. Or at least satisfied. But what I felt was something else entirely. Exposed. You spend a decade trying to move on, burying pain under routines and rent and forged confidence. And then you tear the scab off in front of 100 people? Even if it's righteous, it hurts. I sank down onto the bed, still holding the letter. It was weird. I'd built my whole comeback around it. But now that it had done its job, I didn't know what to do with it. Should I burn it? Frame it? Leave it in the nightstand like some twisted Bible? Instead, I tucked it into my suitcase, along with the blazer, the heels, and everything else that belonged to the version of me who showed up to that party with a mission. The next morning, my phone blew up. Texts, missed calls, emails. Some were from people who had been in the room. Others from those who heard about it after. A few former classmates. Even 2 teachers. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I didn't know. I should have asked questions. You were always such a bright kid. I wondered what happened. That last one got to me. Because that's the thing. People did wonder. But no one asked. No one reached out. Not back then. Not when it mattered. It was easier to accept the clean version of the story, the one where I just ran off. Got angry. Broke bad. That narrative kept everything neat. Kept him intact. A few days later, Rachel, my best friend, the one whose couch saved my life back then, called me laughing. You've got to see this, she said. She texted me a screenshot. The school district had quietly taken down the retirement article on their website. No more 40 years of legacy. No more pillar of the community. Just gone. And that wasn't all. Apparently, a few teachers had already started whispering about things they'd brushed off over the years: odd budget cuts, sudden department shutdowns, missing recommendations. When someone asked about the canceled theater program again, a different name came up. Mine. It was like my story cracked the dam, and all the ignored pieces started spilling out. One of the board members, a woman named Lorraine, even sent me a message. "I believe you." I always did. Always? Really? Where was she when I was sleeping on a friend's couch with $47 to my name and panic attacks every night? But I didn't write back. I didn't need her sympathy now. I was done collecting apologies that were 10 years too late. And yet, something about all of it stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about how easy it was for my father to rewrite history. How eager everyone was to believe him. To need to believe him. Because if a man like that, polished, respected, beloved, could do something so cruel, then what did that say about them? It was easier to pretend I didn't exist than to question the whole damn structure. You know? That's why it had to happen the way it did. Public. Unfiltered. No apologies. Just the truth. But truth has a price. A week after the party, Tessa called me again. "You're not going to believe this," she said. My dad had stepped down early from some education board he chaired. Rumors were swirling. Personal reasons, family health issues, the usual vague cover-ups. But behind closed doors, it was chaos. Apparently, someone had filed a formal inquiry into past administrative decisions, theater budget cuts, suspensions, teacher complaints that had been swept under the rug. And guess what? My name was on more than a few of those records. Tessa told me something else too. "Sarah, my dad's freaking out." "Henry." "Yeah. He's saying this whole thing is going to ruin everything. That it's like setting fire to the family name." I laughed. Actually laughed. "The fire's been burning for years," I said. I just pointed to the smoke. But still, part of me felt weird about it. Not regret. I didn't regret a damn thing. But I hadn't expected the cracks to reach that far. And then, about 2 weeks after the gala, came the letter. An actual letter. In the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. My mother's. I opened it slowly. My hands weren't shaking, but my chest felt tight again. Inside was one page. It read, "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. But I wanted you to know that the night you came to the house, after you left." I cried. I wanted to chase after you. I even picked up my keys. But I couldn't open the door. I was scared. Not of you. Of him. Of what it meant to choose you. I know that's not an excuse. It's just the truth. I'm proud of you. Always was. Even when I said nothing. Especially then. I didn't cry when I read it. I thought I would. But instead, I felt nothing. Or maybe I just didn't have the energy to feel anything new. She still hadn't called me. Still hadn't faced me. But I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the same box as my own. And that night, something shifted. I realized I didn't need her approval. Or his. Or the school's. Or anyone's, really. The thing about truth is, once you've spoken it, you don't have to keep repeating it. It just lives there now. In the air. In people's memories. In the awkward silences that follow certain names at dinner parties. You can walk away from it and still be whole. And that's exactly what I did. About a month after the retirement party, I got a message through my professional website. It was from a young woman, early 20s, based on the photo. She was a senior at Widgemort High, working on a senior project about institutional abuse and the impact of silence. She wrote, "You probably don't know me, but I heard what happened at the retirement event. I just wanted to say thank you. For showing up. For saying it out loud." I stared at that message longer than I probably should have. Then I sent a short reply. "I'm glad someone heard it." She wrote back 2 hours later. "Oh, we all heard it. That's the thing, isn't it? When you finally stop being quiet, people realize how loud your absence really was." I started getting a few more of those quiet, scattered acknowledgments. Not apologies. Not validation I needed. Just echoes. Meanwhile, life went on. My off-Broadway show got picked up for a second run. Nothing huge, just a small venue in DC, but enough to feel like momentum. And for the first time in years, I found myself writing something new. Not about pain. Not about estrangement or betrayal. Just life. Messy, stubborn, resilient life. One night after rehearsal, I ended up on the phone with Rachel. We hadn't really debriefed everything since the gala. We were sitting in our separate apartments with wine glasses and spotty Bluetooth. She said, "You know, it's weird. You disappeared once, and now you've shown up so loud, they can't ignore you." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just let her talk. "I remember when you cried into my hoodie. You were so scared. But even back then, I knew you were gonna make it. Not just survive, like, really make it. I smiled. You should have told me that then. I did, she said. You just weren't ready to believe it. And yeah, maybe she was right. A few days later, I did something I hadn't done in a decade. I went back to the old neighborhood. Not to confront anyone. Not to stir the pot. I just wanted to see it. The house was still there. Same peeling paint. Same porch swing. But it looked smaller. Weaker, somehow. I didn't knock. Just stood on the sidewalk for a while, watching the wind play with the branches of the old tree out front. And then the door opened. It wasn't my father. It wasn't my mother either. It was a boy, maybe 11, maybe 12, with a backpack and a pair of muddy sneakers. He looked at me for a second, then turned around and yelled, "Mom." Some ladies outside. A woman came out, someone I'd never seen before. She gave me a polite, puzzled smile. "Can I help you?" I shook my head. "No. Sorry. Wrong house." I turned and walked away. And you know what? It felt good. Because it was the wrong house. That place stopped being mine a long time ago. The family that lived there now, they had nothing to do with my story. They weren't ghosts. They were just people. And I didn't need to haunt that sidewalk anymore. That night, I sat on my apartment floor with a cup of tea, looking through old things. The letter. This Contessa sent me. My mother's handwritten apology. I laid them all out in front of me like puzzle pieces to a history I'd finally stopped trying to erase or rewrite. And then I made a choice. I put them in a box. Taped it shut. Labeled it in thick black ink, not for forgetting. Just for letting go. I stuck it in the back of my closet, not hidden, just resting. I don't know if I'll ever open it again. But I don't need to. Because the story doesn't live in that box. It lives in me. In every stage I stand on. Every word I write. Every truth I speak. Even if my voice shakes. I used to think silence was power. Now I know better. Silence is survival. But voice is reclamation. And I reclaim mine. Not just for me. For every daughter whose name got erased from the family photo wall. For every kid who left a letter that no one bothered to read. For every woman who came back not to beg, but to be seen. I didn't get justice. I didn't get an apology from my father. I didn't get the warm movie scene hug from my mom. But I got something else. I got my story back. And sometimes that's enough. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too.